Welcome to Walk the Talk, our virtual food summit. I'm your host, Emily King from Spira, and today I'm talking to Kate Underwood from Eat New Zealand about the role of communicating and the New Zealand food story. We'll get further into that. Our next speaker, Kate Underwood, she is well versed in this, and I'll let you explain, Kate, about what you do. Welcome this morning, Morena.
Morena, kia ora, thank you for having me. It's an honour to be here amongst these amazing wahine. So yeah, I'm really fortunate. Kia ora tātou, ko maua te maunga, ko Waiare River te awa, no te poke aho, ko Underwood tōku whānau, ko Kate tōku ingoa. So to give a bit of context as to why I'm here, I'm a food writer, storyteller, and the communications specialist for Eat New Zealand. I can see lots of our crew and the participants here, so it's nice to see some familiar names. But for those who aren't familiar with Eat New Zealand, we're a not-for-profit national food movement working to connect people to our land and our ocean through food. We're the leading cross-sector organisation committed to telling the Aotearoa food story. And we do that through a number of different ways, which I'll get into as the discussion flows on. Personally, I've got a background in nutrition, and I also currently have a social media platform of my own called Relish the Memory, which is all about telling interesting and exciting food stories. And a key part of the work that I do currently is that I lead our Eat New Zealand kaitaki, and that's a collective of next generation food leaders, and they're all storytellers in their own right, but they're young people who are doing amazing things throughout the food system, and we've brought them together into a collective. So that's a really key and interesting part of what I'm doing at the moment.
Thanks, Kate.
Yeah.
Awesome to have you here today. You mentioned Eat and your membership, and there's some diversity in there. Let's just get into what some of the, I guess, challenges are. We've spoken about challenges with other organisations. What are some of the challenges you're seeing or they're seeing at the moment?
I think at the moment it's honestly just
food businesses or restaurants, or maybe explain the membership?
Yeah, for sure. I think we've got our membership kind of transcends the food system, I think, which is the most interesting thing about the work that we do, is that we represent all aspects of it. And that in itself is extremely unique these days. But in general, I think the messaging currently is sort of just surviving through the current times. Yep. Like whether that's mentally, physically, emotionally, like just trying to deal with what's happened in the last couple of years. But also another side of it is lots of the people within our community are actually paving new ways forward. So they are looking at transforming the way that they do things that may be different to how things have been done before. And obviously with that comes a whole different bunch of challenges and kind of red tape that they have to come up against. So in that there's challenge to kind of make something different and to go against the status quo. Yeah.
And so I guess within that, so you're a communications person with a really great background across those things. So when you're communicating messages to your audience, or reframe it, how do you communicate things? That's probably a good place to start. And then some tips or suggestions are for our food businesses out there around how they can do that themselves. And here, just to be clear to the audience, and Kate knows this, we're now unpacking further what it means for Aotearoa New Zealand in 2022 right now for the food story, coming out of and still in quite a turbulent couple of years with COVID and seeing the impacts of rising food prices, seeing the impacts of climate change on farmers and growers and supply chains. There's a lot going on. So this is the context in which we're speaking, and with a big group of foodies and behind them, Eat New Zealand's, communicating to an audience. So maybe you can now share what you're doing there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, within Eat New Zealand, we use a number of different platforms to connect to our audience, which is both an external voice and internally, and that's online and in person. So we host the most important food conversation in Aotearoa every year called the Eat New Zealand Hui, and that's a chance to actually bring people physically together in a room to connect in person. And then we also share messaging and storytelling and stories of these amazing people through our platforms, which are both online and across social media and on our website as well. But in terms of, I think one of the biggest challenges for lots of these businesses is actually finding and connecting to their audience and amongst the noise. I mean, I know I've seen lots of it lately with the whole social media algorithm and just people not being able to connect with the same number and engagement of people that they used to be able to. So trying to figure out ways to navigate that, to find your people and find a stronger way to connect with them has been really challenging. I think things as simple as like actually collecting email addresses, it's like really basic, but that's one way that you can guarantee that whatever it is that you want to share, you can find a direct communication platform to share that with them. And that's a key way that we do with lots of our Eat New Zealand messaging as well. Yeah,
great. It's good to have practical tips like that, isn't it? And thinking about that wider membership and your kaitaki work and the hui, which is fantastic that you put on. What does it mean to be a food business in Aotearoa New Zealand in 2022? What is it?
This is an interesting one. I think the biggest thing is to try and understand your why, like figure out who you are and what it is that you want to deliver, but also which kind of part that plays in the wider New Zealand food culture. It's about figuring out your connection to Te Tile or our natural world and kind of understanding what your role is within the bigger picture of the food system. And I think often we kind of feel very internal and like, you know, we're just kind of on the grind, like doing what we need to do in our own businesses. But if you sort of like look up and outside of that, then that's a really big opportunity to kind of find out who you are and then see where you fit.
Which is difficult when you're on the ground serving food and or growing, you know, like
so hard. Yeah. And I think that's
look at that bigger picture for a small business is
and I think it's a major learning we've seen come out of the Kaitaki Collective, which is just the example of bringing these people together who aren't in the same industry necessarily, that they're all in food, but the specifics of what they do day to day is really, really different. But then being able to observe the learnings that can be made from other sectors or other challenges that are often a lot more similar than we expect. So actually trying to prioritize and take the time to connect with other people, maybe outside of your immediate realm, has been super valuable for lots of people.
Yeah, and so that connection piece is big, and it's a theme this morning, talking about collaboration and the collective and mindset, ngā nuinga, and how we facilitate that, and EAT does that really well. I think the common thread with membership organisations or industry organisations is that's kind of their purpose. They're trying to bring people together. And when you're a food business, thinking back to your point about unpacking and understanding your why, then how are you going to communicate that once you've got what your purpose is or what's driving you? Is it food waste reduction, or is it climate change, or is it to feed people healthy food, or is it to continue your family legacy on the farm? Like whatever it is, it's your purpose of what you're doing. How are you then communicating that?
I think another key point is that people actually buy or connect with people. Right. So it's giving yourself the opportunity to be a person within your business or your brand, and then that allows your audience to connect with you on a personal level. So it's sharing a little bit of more of yourself. It's being a bit more open. It's actually taking people with you on the journey of what your business is. And Floris mentioned it before, like going to the cacao farm and getting that experience and understanding of so much more than just what the product is really, really valuable. I know even just this morning I was looking at Instagram stories, and one of our kaitaki, Tim from Ocean Speared, he's a spear fisherman, and just like he was videoing today, like he's out on this crazy wild water, and like it just completely connects you so much better to everything that he's trying to do. So every time you eat a butterfish, you'll be connected to that place. And there's just so much more, especially with technology and social media, that we can share. So it's kind of a little bit of lifting up behind the curtain and showing people.
Yeah, and authenticating, because here today we're talking about walk the talk. We're talking about people really telling that true story. And there's many aspects to that, but if you're using technology authentically, you can directly connect. And we saw that with businesses, I guess through COVID and post it, really having to share what's going on as they pivot through maybe going from supplying restaurants to having to do direct orders and what's happening there. So you get this opportunity, but what are your thoughts on that, I guess, around?
Yeah, I think personally, when I think of brands, and if I know the people behind them, it's just so much more exciting.
Yeah.
When you consume them or purchase them or support them, and so you really just do feel so much more connected to a thing when there's a person behind it and when they've actually shown themselves. And I understand that that's challenging for some people, like that might not be their immediate kind of that might not be their thing. They might be a bit private, but it's sharing in a way that feels best to you, and then that'll come across the most authentically. Like, not everybody needs to do a daily vlog about everything that they do in their business, but just little snippets that kind of help people further connect is really, really valuable.
Great, thanks, Kate. That was Kate Underwood from Aotearoa New Zealand joining me on Walk the Talk today, talking about the role of communicating in your food business. I'm Emily King and I'm your host from Spira. Please listen to the rest of these interviews where you found this one. Thank you so much.